Sagittarius, my beloved, something has just happened that I have never experienced in over 3 decades of channeling divine messages. I need you to listen carefully because I truly fainted when I saw your future, and what followed will stay with me for the rest of my life. Archangel Michael appeared and screamed out loud, a cry of power and urgency I had never heard before. Not once in 30 years have I encountered a vision so profound, so spiritually overwhelming, and it was all for you. You are not here by accident. You are not watching this because of chance or coincidence. You were called here, drawn here, led by the divine hand of God. You were meant to receive this message today in this exact moment in your life, and I am simply the vessel chosen to deliver it. When I laid out the cards for your sign and prayed over your energy, the room went still. The candle on my altar, which had burned for hours, suddenly went out, and then, as if heaven itself breathed upon it, it lit again, this time with a brighter, more adventurous flame. I froze. My soul knew something extraordinary was about to be revealed for Sagittarius. So, I ask you now, Sag, to breathe with me. Inhale deeply. Close your eyes for 3 seconds. Exhale slowly. This is not just a video. This is a sacred appointment between your soul and the divine. Your angels are watching. The heavens are listening. And the message you are about to hear is no ordinary guidance. This is a prophetic unfolding of your destiny. This is the moment when timelines shift. This is the message that confirms your old cycle has ended, and something far more magnificent is being prepared just for you. I welcome you with reverence and humility to Cosmic Treasure, a spiritual space where astrology meets divine healing, where tarot is guided by the spirit and where the whispers of God are never far from reach. This is not about entertainment. This is about transformation, about returning you to the truth of who you really are, a child of light, a vessel of power, a chosen one. And if you feel a stirring in your chest, a ringing in your ears, or a single tear falling without explanation, that's not emotion, that's recognition. Your spirit knows this message is for you, so I invite you before we go any further to affirm your presence. Comment below right now. I am ready. I receive the message meant for me. This act of faith opens the energetic gate. It declares to the universe that you are awake, aware, and aligned. Let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for your presence here. Every like, every comment you leave, every subscription to this channel brings you deeper into this sacred soul family. Your support fuels this mission and allows us to bring these life-shifting messages directly to you. And believe me, Sagittarius, you will want to stay until the very last moment of this video, because what the universe is revealing to you today is nothing short of breathtaking. Now, tell me what sacred thread pulled you here today. What dream, sign, or silent prayer whispered your name to the stars? Whatever it was real, and now it's time to receive what has been waiting for you all along. Stay with me. The divine has only just begun to speak. After what we just experienced together, the intensity of that vision, the sacred call that led you here, you may be wondering, what now? What does it all mean? Why now? And why you? The answer begins with the stars. Right now, in the divine orchestration of the cosmos, Jupiter, your magnificent ruling planet of luck, expansion, and higher truth, is moving into a harmonious and empowering trine with Mars, the planet of purposeful action and courage. But it doesn't end there. The Sun and Venus are involved too, forming a rare alignment that we in astrology sometimes call a gateway of truth and freedom. This isn't astrology as usual. It's the kind of shift that only occurs when the universe decides it's time for you to cross a threshold, one you cannot unsee, one you were born to step through. And you felt it, haven't you? The subtle friction in the air, the quiet nudges to let go of a belief that's long expired, the whisper that something bigger has been waiting on the other side of your resistance. The Eight of Swords reversed appears here for you, Sag. This doesn't speak of entrapment. It marks the decisive end of a mental prison, the last echo of a limiting belief that kept your grand vision small. It's the universe saying, cut the mental cords that tied you to old stories of you can't or it's impossible. There is both relief and liberation in this moment. That's what makes it so sacred. In letting go of what you thought you had to hold, you make room for the boundless wisdom that was always meant for you to receive. Then comes the star. Gentle, silent, shimmering above the ashes, it arrives in your spread like a deep breath of fresh air after a long journey. A kind of grace that doesn't need to shout. Its message is clear. You made it. You crossed the fire and were not consumed. You were never alone. Your resilience, often expressed through relentless optimism and faith, has been seen. And now the light is finding you even if you forgot what it felt like. And then something almost too significant to ignore. 3 9 of wands in a row. This hasn't happened in the 30 years I've worked with the cards. It is not coincidence. It is validation. You, dear Sagittarius, have carried the torch for a vision no one else could see. You have taught lessons through your own journey, and now the timeline is catching up with the pure, courageous faith you planted. Your wisdom is about to become visible, and not just to the world, but to someone watching you closely. There is someone, a mentor, a publisher, a visionary investor, perhaps even a divine catalyst in disguise, who has seen what others missed, who is preparing to make you an offer that could change your philosophical and financial destiny. A teaching role, a major journey, a platform, proposal, something that aligns your expansive truth with global visibility and prosperity. But it won't come through hustle or control. It will come through alignment, through readiness. So I ask you now, have you felt like you've been doing everything right, but nothing is moving? Have you been wondering if anyone sees how hard you're trying to stay truthful and free? If so, comment below right now and write, "I accept the reward the universe is sending me." Let it be an act of energetic permission. Let it be a declaration that you're ready to receive, not just give. Because this moment is not about proving anymore. It's about remembering that your worth is not defined by output, but by the wisdom you embody. The gates are opening, not because you begged for them, but because you became the kind of soul that doesn't need to ask. And that changes everything. You've been carrying more than just memories. Sag, you've been carrying imprinted old voices, attachments, shadows of conversations that once defined your worth, but no longer hold truth. The weight hasn't always been physical, but you felt it in your need to justify your moments of self-doubt, your capacity to stay grounded, and now the shift has begun. This part of your journey is about release, but not in the loud, dramatic way you may expect. Release doesn't always come with thunder. Sometimes it arrives like a soft unraveling, a thread pulling loose from something you once held tightly. You may not even realize how bound you were until you finally breathe freely. There's a reason certain relationships are falling away right now. There's a reason the people or patterns that once pulled at your energy are starting to dissolve. You're not losing something, you're being unhooked. Emotional contracts you never consciously agreed to are being cancelled. What used to demand your validation or your silence no longer has a seat at your table. And though it may feel strange at first, like reaching for a familiar wound and not finding it, it's also a sign that your field is healing. The Knight of Wands appears here not just as a symbol of impulsiveness, but as a reminder of what becomes possible when you stop apologizing for your restless spirit and need for forward motion. He reminds you that the life you are now capable of building, whether in love, creativity, health, or purpose, must be rooted in unbridled adventure and authenticity. You do not need permission to explore. Love is a part of this rebirth, too. Whether you are healing from heartbreak, navigating loneliness, or entering a new chapter with someone you love, the emotional blueprint is changing. The Ace of Cups, the Two of Cups, and the Lovers all speak of connection, but not the kind built on fantasy or dependency. These cards carry the promise of mutual resonance, a soul-level companionship that does not need to rescue you because it honors the fact that you already rescued yourself. For those seeking partnership, this phase is not about chasing validation. It's about making space for a kind of love that arrives when you no longer need it to fill a hole. For those already in a relationship, it's an invitation to rediscover the shared journey without agenda to touch, without fear, to speak the truth, without rehearsing, to simply be and be seen. But no matter your status, the call is the same. Open without losing your center. And healing the heart also includes healing the body. Your system has been holding tension for too long, especially where you carry the desire to go. Rest is not laziness, it's sacred work. Nourishment is not indulgence, it's alignment. Be mindful of what you consume, not only through food but through screens, conversations, and environments. Excessive doom scrolling, negative self-talk, intellectual distraction, all of it accumulates. Your body knows what it needs. Trust it. You may not feel like you're doing anything remarkable right now, but even in this quiet undoing, you're participating in a cosmic treasure, the rebuilding of a life rooted in truth rather than reaction. And that's no small thing. So if there's someone or something you need to release a memory, a relationship of fear, or a version of yourself that no longer fits, this is your moment. Name it, bless it, and let it go. And if that resonates, I invite you now to write these words in the comments. I accept the release that brings me into light. Because what you affirm with your voice, your energy begins to embody. You don't need to fight for healing. You only need to allow it. You've been sensing it, haven't you? That something deeper is trying to get your attention. Not loud, not demanding, but persistent, like a whisper from behind the veil. You might feel it in your body as a pull to explore, or in your chest as a stillness that comes just before sleep. These are not just passing moments, these are invitations. Your intuitive center sag is widening. And this part of your journey is about learning to trust the voice that speaks not with words but with knowing. The Hierophant has appeared in your spread now, and his message is subtle but absolute. He is the guardian of sacred traditions, the keeper of your personal philosophy, and the voice of your highest self. He is not here to preach, he is here to confirm your internal knowing, and the sun appearing beside him confirms something powerful. What was once clouded in doubt will soon be illuminated by clarity and purpose. Light is coming, not just externally, but from within you. That internal flame you thought had gone out is actually recalibrating, preparing to show you visions that cannot be taught, only received. Pay attention, especially over the next 7 days. Dreams will speak in a different language. Repeating numbers will find you in strange places. You may glance at a clock and see 1010 more than once. You may notice 444 on a receipt, a license plate, or a phone number. The no 77 may come through in conversations, pages, or timestamps. These are not accidents, they're alignments. In numerology, 444 is the frequency of divine protection. It reminds you that you are not alone. Your path is being watched, over, and supported. 77 speaks to divine perfection and inner mastery. It appears when the soul has reached a point where spiritual understanding becomes practical wisdom. And 10 is not just a number. It is a gateway. It shows up when you are crossing thresholds you once feared but now embrace. This is why I invite you to keep a journal beside your bed. Before you sleep, close your eyes and place your hands gently over your heart. Ask for clarity. Ask for peace. Ask to remember what your higher self wants you to receive. And when you wake, even if the dream seems strange or fragmented, write it down. You may not understand it at first, but in time the pieces will come together. The ancient words in Jeremiah 29:11 say, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This promise isn't distant or unreachable. It lives inside every divine nudge, every quiet signal, every pull in your chest to try again. The more you listen, the more you will hear. So many of us ask for signs, but forget that we are the ones who must pause long enough to notice them. Dreams are not just fragments of the day. They are letters written by the subconscious carried in the arms of insight. And now you are becoming fluent in that language. So I ask you, have you dreamt anything lately that felt too strange to be random, too real to ignore? Don't dismiss it. Write it down. Speak it aloud. And if your soul resonates with this, type in the comments now, "I am ready to receive the prophecy meant for me." Because once you declare that you no longer chase intuition, you embody it. What you're about to see in the coming days won't just surprise you, it will confirm what your spirit has known all along. When intuition sharpens, what often follows is alignment, not in dramatic waves, but in quiet, visible confirmations that the universe was listening all along. The energy you've been investing in healing, releasing, and receiving has opened a new current, and now that current is beginning to carry something back to you. This moment is not just about breakthroughs in love or awareness. It's also about legacy, about wealth, not just in material form, but in stability, influence, and lasting wisdom. And the cards speak clearly now. The Three of Wands, the Wheel of Fortune spinning not once but 3 times, and the Ace of Swords cutting through the final illusion of limited possibility. These are not soft symbols. These are declaration. You are stepping into a chapter where karmic rewards flow tangibly from the journeys you've taken and the truths you've spoken. The effort you thought had been ignored, the intellectual risks you took, they are now being acknowledged by something far greater than the human eye. This kind of return doesn't come because you demand it. It comes because you've become the kind of person who can carry it. The Wheel of Fortune, especially when turning 3 times in your spread, is more than luck. It's a rhythm proof that cycles have turned in your favor, that what once blocked your path has cleared, that a door you didn't know existed has opened quietly behind you, and now all that remains is for you to turn around and walk through it. There is financial energy coming your way that holds both mystery and meaning. It may arrive through a surprising channel, a message, a contract, a forgotten payment, a delayed refund, a person returning to make something right. It may involve the numbers 3 and 7, which in numerology represent creation and divine completion. Whether it's a check with those digits, a transaction at that time, or a number sequence tied to a decision, pay attention. The universe speaks in symbols, and you're now fluent in their tone. But receiving is only one part of the flow. Now comes the sacred responsibility, how you manage what comes in. Consider this. What if you were to set aside 10% of anything that arrives now, no matter how small, and invested it in your soul's expansion, a course, a journey, a teaching platform, a step toward the life you say you want? And what if you were to give 5% away, not because you owe anyone, but because you're signaling abundance back into the collective field? When we give from a place of fullness, not fear, we magnify what returns. And while the financial realm opens, the body speaks too. Don't ignore what you crave lately. Not the sugar or the caffeine, but the colors. This week, your power colors are royal purple and ceran blue. These are not just luck auras. They are energetically aligning with your field. Think of lavender, eggplant, blueberries, the bright blue of the open sky. Let your thoughts become rituals of wealth. Nourishment is no less sacred than money. Sometimes it is more. If you feel cold, write your intention by candlelight under the next waning moon. Use violet or deep blue inks that ground truth and activate clarity. This is not superstition. This is sacred habit. Your nervous system understands ritual more than logic. It craves rhythm, not perfection. So, light a candle not just to ask, but to affirm. Write what you're ready to receive. Speak it out loud. Fold the paper and keep it somewhere meaningful. The act itself is the magnet, and if your heart is stirring, if something within you whispers that yes, this is my time to rise, not just emotionally, but financially, then speak it now. Comment these words below and make your intention known. I accept the wealth plan the universe has designed for me. Because you were never meant to chase money. You were meant to magnetize it by remembering your value and standing where it can find you. What happens when you've done the work, received the blessings, and find yourself standing in the very place you once dreamed about, but no longer reaching, no longer chasing, but suddenly realizing that life is waiting for you to lead? That is where you are now, Sagittarius. And the energy confirms it through the arrival of 3 deeply affirming cards: the King of Wands, the King of Swords, and the Ace of Wands. This is not coincidence. This is a calling. There's something you've known since you were very young, even if it was buried under silence, shame, or distraction. You've always felt the urge to teach and inspire, not from ego, not for applause, but because something inside you understands the direction and the higher philosophical purpose required to carry others forward. And yet, life may have taught you to dim that light. You may have been told it was too much, too intense, too preachy. So you learned to wait, to observe, to earn the right to speak through suffering. But leadership is no longer something you must qualify for. You've already been qualified through endurance, integrity, and inner evolution. You no longer need to prove your value through conflict. Now you demonstrate it through presence, through the stability in your voice. When others are confused, through the steadiness in your heart. When the world grows loud, through the decisions you make, not just for yourself, but for the collective field you're responsible for shaping. The King of Wands is your visionary self, the part of you that sees further than most, the part that gets restless when others settle. He invites you to initiate, to build, to create, not from fear, but from sacred fire. The King of Swords is your intellectual self, the part that speaks the difficult truth with clarity and compassion, and holds space for truth even when it's uncomfortable. He reminds you that integrity is not a weakness, it's a weapon of truth. And the Ace of Wands, that's your green light, your divine permission slip, a burst of spiritual voltage saying, this is your time. And maybe your current job role or identity feels tight now, like a shirt you've outgrown, but still wear out of habit. That's not failure. That's evolution. If your work drains you more than it uplifts you, it may be because your soul is asking for a realignment. Not everyone is meant to stay where they started. Your compass is shifting because your leadership is needed somewhere new. That doesn't mean you must burn bridges or take impulsive risks. It means you begin to ask better questions. What would it feel like to lead with energy instead of obligation? What would change if your days were aligned with your values, not just your skills? Who might benefit if you finally stepped into the role you were born to inhabit? And it's not just in your career. You're being called to lead in subtle, sacred ways in your writing, your travels, your lessons, your public platform. You may be the one who knows how to diffuse tension, the one who senses when someone needs to be seen, the one who dares to speak the larger truth when others stay silent. That is not a burden. That is your design. You are entering a timeline where spiritual expansion, material abundance, and emotional depth are not competing but converging. You don't have to sacrifice one to gain the other. You are capable of holding them all because you are no longer fractured. You are integrated. You are no longer climbing toward your crown. You are wearing it. And if something stirs in you when you hear this, if you feel a flicker in your chest or a sudden stillness in your breath, it may be your soul remembering the truth of who you are. And if that's you, I invite you now to declare it in your own words by commenting below. I now step into the throne of my soul, not because someone gave it to, but because it has always been yours. Sagittarius, you were not born to suffer. You were born to embody cosmic treasure. You were not placed on this earth to just survive the storm, but to rise above it and teach others how to find the way forward. Everything you've been through, every quiet ache, every silent prayer, every invisible victory has shaped the sacred vessel you are now. And this moment right now is your resurrection. You've walked through fire, and yet here you are, not only intact, but stronger, clearer, wiser. What you've just heard in this message is not prediction. It's alignment. It's a sacred remembrance of who you've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the conditioning. You are not being asked to become something you're not. You are being called to return to the light you always carried. Your life is not random. Your pain was not pointless. And your healing is not accidental. The stars have spoken. The energy has shifted. And the wheel of fortune is no longer turning in the background. It's turning in your favor, not one time, but three. Not with hesitation, but with divine clarity. You were chosen to hear this message. You were brought here not by a search engine, not by an algorithm, but by alignment. Your spirit was magnetized to this frequency because you're finally ready to remember. So I ask you now with gentleness and truth, will you claim it? Will you stop rehearsing your suffering and start receiving your joy? Will you stop shrinking into spaces you've outgrown and start standing where your presence heals room? Will you allow abundance, peace, and clarity to actually enter without apologizing, without over-explaining, without waiting for permission? The cosmic treasure isn't somewhere out there. It's already in motion. You're not waiting on the universe. It's waiting on you to say yes. And so, if you feel even the smallest yes rising in your body, in your breath, in your bones, let's anchor it together. in the comments below. Right. I activate my golden destiny. I am the light of divine promise. I am ready to step into the heavenly flow. Don't just type the words, breathe them. Feel them in your chest. Imagine your cells responding. Because the power of a declaration lies not in its volume but in its vibration. And this one act of presence, this one moment of saying yes can shift everything. Now, I want you to take this energy and do something sacred with it in the next 24 hours. What is one simple but meaningful action you can take to align with the truth you've remembered today? Maybe it's booking a trip, no matter how small. Maybe it's journaling under moonlight. Maybe it's saying no to something you've always said yes to out of obligation. Whatever it is, what is your first step? Tell me in the comments. The first step I'll take in the next 24 hours is let this be the beginning of your real timeline. The one where you lead with love, receive with openness, and live with alignment. And if this message stirred something inside you, if it brought peace, clarity, or hope, I lovingly ask you to share it with exactly 7 other Sagittarians. Not 6, not 8, just 7. Because 7 is the divine activator this week. It is the frequency of spiritual expansion, soul integration, and inner victory. Let the ripple move through you into the lives of others who need this light. You, my beloved Sagittarius, are not a follower of fate. You are a co-creator of cosmic treasure. You are not waiting for the stars to give you a sign. You are the sign. You're not just crossing into a new chapter. You're stepping onto a whole new timeline. A timeline where success, love, peace, and purpose walk hand in hand. A timeline where your presence itself is an offering. A timeline where your leadership is not forced, but inevitable. Let this be the day you remember. You didn't come here to be invisible. You came to shine so brightly. Others remember the destination just by standing near you. Thank you for letting me walk beside you today, even if just for a few sacred moments. Thank you for opening your heart, for believing that better is possible, for showing up not just for this video, but for your soul's growth. If you haven't yet, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to Cosmic Treasure, and ring the bell so that these messages keep finding you, especially in the moments you need them most. Until next time, hold your crown high, keep your heart open, and remember your light was never meant to be hidden. Now go Sagittarius and lead.